The following is a rebroadcast of the Newark City Schools Board of Education's most recent general monthly meeting.
I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Newark City School District Board of Education, meeting in the High School Media Center, May 13th, 2013, 6:30 p.m. Jeff, call the roll, please.
Mr. Blind?
Here.
Mr. Bybee?
Here.
Mr. Carr?
Here.
Mr. Harden?
Here.
Mrs. Nickum?
Here.
Have a quorum of 5.
Thank you, Jeff. And now Mr. Bybee will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and an invocation.
Let's stand, please. And, you know, I was talking with Doug before the meeting started, and it seems like everybody's so busy at this time of year. We've got so many things going on. Having just finished up prom in the school district here and, you know, getting ready for finals. And Doug was saying that it seems like every night this week we've got something going on. And, you know, those are good things. Those are things that we need to feel good about here in the community. And, you know, sometimes you wonder if things are getting better at all because you seem to be running around so much and there's so much demanded of your time. And, you know, I was reminded of a quote from a movie I just saw recently, the movie Pi, Ang Lee film. And one of the quotes in there I particularly liked was, if things will get better in the end, and if things aren't better, then it's simply not the end. And I really did like that quote, you know, and everything we have going on right now, we have to realize to have to be patient and things are going to get better. So please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dan. Now we'll move on to special reports. Do the Safety Committee report. Mr. Harden will give the Safety Committee report.
Yeah, there are extra copies of this. Dave Altpeter has them if you want a copy of these. But Safety Committee was formed at the request of the board in January and met in February, March, and April. And the task was to discuss the most effective ways to train administrators, teachers, and staff short of allowing firearms on school properties to give them the best defense of our children in case an intruder intends harm. As I mentioned, the group, fine group of people, and I'll mention them by name here in a moment, met for 3 months and reviewed a variety of items which are summarized. I will quickly go over those. I'm not going to read this verbatim. But Officer David Bardsley talked to the group about techniques and a video known as ALICE, which stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. He also reviewed a variety of techniques that can be used to help the students protect themselves and to help the teachers and staff guide those students. We then took on the question of what other ways, what other things could we look at, and several of the ideas that were discussed and will continue to be investigated are, first of all, a taser, effective up to about 25 feet away. It can be stored in a safe that can remember multiple fingerprints, so it can be located in a sort of a central location. Something as simple as what's known as an ASP baton, and I think everybody understands that's that extending baton that police use that is a fairly painful weapon, not that I've ever been hit with one, not after college at least. Mace, that was a joke, by the way. Mace was not previously discussed. The problem with that is it really does create a problem for everyone around, so it sort of lingers in the air. Alarms, a variety of different alarms. There really has been some advances in that type of technology. Something as simple as a fire extinguisher that can be used to create disturbance while other techniques are employed, in addition to self-defense training. At the final meeting, one of the other items that we discussed was really looking at the cost benefit advantage of armed officers at each school. That would be quite expensive for the schools. A number of schools have allowed those who have had training beyond conceal and carry to have weapons. It's not every teacher, and people certainly aren't required. I would add that the local school boards do have the power to make those types of decisions. So with this is really the first time we've handed this to the board. The board will review this. We will then come up with some recommendations for consideration and some budget items attached to that. And with that, I think between Bev and I, we were on this committee along with, let me just mention the members of the committee: Doug Ute, Bev, myself, John Davis, Dina Cable, Denise Wiley, Suzanne Fox, Jennifer Trotter, Gemma Zimmerman, Gary Baker, and Officer Barsley. So certainly thank those people for their time, but a good group of people that we had to discuss a wide variety of solutions. We will now consider these items and come up with a recommendation, and certainly would take any questions from the board at this time.
Does anyone have a question for Kurt considering the safety report?
Kurt, I've got a question. What some of the teachers, what is their opinion of maybe asking them to carry a weapon? And
We didn't get into that, Dan. We actually, the mission was, were really the alternatives other than that. It was brought up at the end as part of a question. So we really didn't get into researching that part of the discussion. And I think it was probably a wise decision because it's easy to get bogged down in one solution and be focusing on that. And so I thought it was a good idea to, at Doug's suggestion, to come up with ideas outside of that. And I think he realized that we had expressed in January that option is one to be considered as well. Does that answer your question?
yes. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Kurt? Not, thank you, Kurt. We'll move on to the Early Learning Initiative.
Board members, I'd share with you as Jody gets ready. Jody presented last year. We asked Jody to come in once a year. And Jody, if you could, during your report, bring up some of the names that are working so hard with that birth to preschool or birth to kindergarten group that you have going on. These people are doing a fantastic job of awareness and getting supplies and that. So we really appreciate that. Thank you, Jody.
It's been growing quite a bit since we started. It's taken a little bit longer to get on here, but my name is Jody Washek, and I'm with Newark City Schools. I'm the ELI chairperson, and we meet on a monthly basis. Hopefully this gets going here, but my first slide basically says we started out with Newark City School employees. There we go. And we came up with, in partnership with United Way and Pathwise, we came up with some bullet points that we wanted to focus on, and it was to help parents prepare their children with the skills that they need to be successful in kindergarten and beyond, to implement an outreach program in the Newark City Schools community to reach children from birth to kindergarten, to provide parent support in preparing their children academically, socially, and emotionally to becoming successful students in school. And it started November 2011, and we partnered with Pathways United Way, and now we are up to Children's Reading Foundation of Licking County, the Licking County Library, COTC, the S Club. May 2012, we gave our first annual book giveaway at Child Find, and 70 bags that were filled with various literacy resources were given to the families as they registered. And then in August 2012, during the kindergarten kickoff, there was 40 additional bags that were filled with literacy resources were given to families. And this is our first parent event. We titled it Parents Turn to Learn. And while they were there, we had childcare available to them so that they could focus on the activities that were presented. And then here's some pictures of what we did. They had rotated between stations, and we had you can see where the people are modeling how to work with your child. And we had, if you can see the little girl, she was 8 months old or something, and they had it clear up to a 4-year-old. showing how you can read with your child. And this was mainly literacy for this event. And then from that stemmed to where I was invited to go to COTC to present to daycare workers or caregivers of the young children for their expectations for kindergarten readiness. Then we had our second event on March 2013. There was about 15 bags that were given out, and they had literacy and math resources in there. And not only did they get them, so you can see at the table there, they were creating them. So we were having the families create the resources that they were going to take and explained how they used them. And then in that bottom middle picture, you can see those are the resources that were given away in that bag. And then to the right of that, we did a kind of like an assessment of what we thought, what the parents were thinking, families were thinking, and they all seemed to absolutely agree that everything they could use to help them with their children. And the paper was not right in front of us, it was around the corner, so I feel like we got an authentic response from them. And we also partnered up with, at COTC and CTEC's children, their literature class gave on a presentation, and we had bags available there to families that came. And then the most recent child find was May 3rd, and 62 bags with literacy resources were handed out to families that day. So we've given out quite a bit of resources to different people. In our future timeline, we're planning in August to have another kindergarten kickoff, and we are going to do more professional development with child care providers and additional, we're going to try to do at least one more additional Parents Turn to Learn event. And then we've also we're on Facebook. There's our Facebook address if anybody would like to come in and like our page. This is where we do the updating at. And that's what I have for updates. Do you have any questions at all, or?
How many parents did you have turn out to that event, Parents Turn to Learn?
Well, the first event we had, I would say 6 maybe, and then the second one there was like 10. It's growing a little bit at a time.
Including one high school parent, a father who came by himself and stayed for the whole time and was very engaged.
Yeah, he thanked us for the event. I'm sorry, that's like right in my face. He thanked us for the event, saying that it really helped him as a father to see what he could do with his child at home too, from a father's point of view.
Realizing this is just getting kicked off, last year was your first full year, is that correct?
Last year was we were just getting our feet wet, getting things started. We started with filling the bags of resources. It turned into this whole year, we did a lot of partnerships where, we had the events with the families. And like I said, I presented at COTC, and then we had the thing over at, with CTEC.
Can you see any results from the activities that you put together, talking to teachers from maybe these kids that have moved on, or?
Well, they're so young right now.
Right.
These were just little children, so it's hard to really gauge what we are.
It's difficult.
What I know that we are reaching is that when you're meeting with these families and that the responses are giving us at the time, it's pretty rewarding to hear them talk about how they're going to be able to use these resources and things that they didn't even think about doing with their young children. So.
Okay.
But as in getting hardcore data, no.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I don't have a question, but I just want to comment. I was in the child care business for about 20 years up until earlier this year, and I applaud this type of effort. Anything that helps get that ball rolling is a great opportunity.
And I think one of the things we have, Nick Myers, he works for the district as well. He was modeling how to read with his son, and it's just really nice to have, from a male and a female point of view, to show families that they can all work together with the kids.
I just share and with the board and the community that this whole effort kind of spun off of a staff professional development down at the ASC one day when Jody and some others were concerned about some things, and we started talking about, well, what can we do about it? Instead of complaining and those type of things, these ladies formed this group. Tremendous support from Mindy Vaughn downtown with that, but that's leadership, and we appreciate what you're doing. Thank you.
Jody, you are the millions of people that will see this. You're still open to more people partnering with you, coming on board and helping
Oh, we're always.
grow this initiative? Whether it
absolutely.
would be a civic organization or a church or a group that
And
would,
every month, we're getting better,
Yeah.
you know, and we're trying to advertise it more. I'm trying to get Facebook, because that seems to be a really good avenue to meet new organizations and things.
trying to make sure if people are watching, they say, hey, we could plug into that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Now, a technology update.
Okay, I'll share that with you. As we talked about last month, we kind of unrolled a big thing we're doing is bring your own device. And, you know, I had an opportunity to come up and witness and watch students and teachers incorporate a little bit of that in their classroom. And so we do have some kids bringing their own iPads, just various devices, some with the phone. I think they're finding out maybe the phone isn't as convenient as they thought it was going to be in terms of downloading everything they want to download. But wonderful collaboration from students to students with this, and it's when they come up with an idea, it's almost instant access to information, which has been neat to see. So we're pleased with the progress, and we're continuing to look and see how we can spread this middle schools and even further here at the high school. So it's a snowball effect, and that snowball's going downhill and packing some more snow on it and getting bigger, but very pleased with it.
Are there any summer activities that have been designed or been brought up to keep this ball rolling? Because it seems to me that if we let this fall apart over the summertime, or if it just doesn't get much attention, that it's going to slow.
I'll defer that to Maura.
And I will defer it to
Okay.
Amy and Alex, who are both in the audience, who have been working on summer programming. So
They're gonna defer it to
either Bill or Bill left.
Left field to shortstop to the plate. You're up, you're batting.
Yeah, we've actually been working on making a couple Moodle courses, which is our online course management system. So far, we have 3 5-week courses designed for teachers to take online. We're also in the process of setting up webinars, so they'll be able to participate in professional development from home, along with a couple at-school in-person sessions over the summer. So that's all stuff that we have planned so far.
Thank you.
And I will just add to that, as with summer school coming out of high school too, that's something that, since most of our summer school sessions are online learning through Play-Doh, if there's additional needing, I think that we would probably expand the student bringing device to that for additional information too. That's not, I mean, if they want to be enrolled in their course and look up some additional information to support that, I believe we would most certainly have the bring your own device for students throughout the summer sessions as well.
We've not run into a situation where not having enough devices for our students this time, so.
Any other technology questions? Not, we'll move on to the construction update.
Okay, we'll talk about the high school first. We are about 3 or 4 weeks away from, if you just take a mental picture behind the auditorium and swinging right behind the media building and coming down the east side of our property and around to the gym is our final phase of our paving package here at the high school. That'll complete the project here. Other than, I think we've got some door packages, some locks, and some minor things like that. And so way back, if you remember, this was a 30 to 36 month project, and it almost seems like we can't remember when we started it. I was thinking the other day, our senior class, when they were freshmen, we were in the auditorium with them, explaining to our seniors what they would see. We showed them an end project, and then here's how we have to get here. And so I could, I was thinking of our senior class, boy, what tremendous leaders they've been through this whole project here. When you're walking down here today, the grass is starting to grow a little bit, although, you know, that'll be a couple-year project up here, and it's going to be really beautiful around here. So that's the high school, and that should take somewhere 5-6 weeks if everything goes well. So actually, I said start there. I want you to start behind the kitchen and swing this way, because we don't want to get to a part of the summer where we need to have deliveries into our kitchen and not be done. So we're starting on the backside and swinging around this way is what we'll do. So Roosevelt, I was in there Friday. I'm really getting excited about that. They have really come a long way with that project, and so we've got a moving plan to move in. We're going to take care of our treasurer department first, and the rest of us will move in as Dave and Larry have the proper people to move us in. And I don't want to jinx us right now. I'm saying we'll be in hopefully by Dave's cringing, hopefully by the end of July, early August. Jeff's an optimist behind me here. It might be early July, but in any event, we have a plan to move in and move our technology over and those things. And we are getting very, very close to a day when there's not a construction trailer on any of our sites. So if you think back, we're in the year 2013 and go all the way back to 2004 and 5 and the planning stages, and it's neat to see. And once again, we are under budget. Everything's been bid out, so got good quality buildings and build them on time and build under budget. So again, Dave's sitting in that front row, and I like to do this because he won't, but thank you, Dave Altepeter, for your leadership of this building project. So.
Any questions on construction?
I don't have a question. I've got a comment, and my comment is 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had a swearing-in ceremony for Judge Baldwin that was well attended by a lot of different people in the community, as well as students from all the schools. And I can't tell you the number of great comments that I got from people that just couldn't believe what a great facility we have here. For many of those people, it was the first time that they were in the school since we've done all of the remodeling and all of the completion's been accomplished. But Dave, I want to join Doug in thanking you and your people for this, because we talk in terms of pride in Newark and what we have in this community. My gosh, this is a fantastic asset to the community to have a facility like this. And then to have people that don't get a chance to get up here very often make those kind of comments. It was really, really great to hear. It made me feel good that we had such great progress. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Thank you, Dan. And now we'll have a public hearing on the issue of the employment of retired employees by the Newark City School District Board of Education. Members of the public are invited to provide input to the board on the issue of Richard Smith, currently employed in the district as a guidance counselor, who is retired and is seeking employment with the district in such position following retirement. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes each, and all public comments will be closed after 30 minutes. Is there anyone wishing at this time to address the board on the subject of the rehiring of Richard Smith? If not, I will close that public hearing and move on to communications from the floor. Anyone wishing to address the board can approach the podium. Please give your name and address, and you may address the board for up to 5 minutes. Does anyone wish to address the board at this time? If not, we'll move on to treasurer's recommendations.
Item 2A is approval of board meeting minutes. It is recommended the minutes of the following board meetings be approved as shown in the appendix. Regular meeting of April 8th, 2013. Special meeting April 22nd, 2013. Approval of the April 2013 financial reports. It is recommended the financial statements, including investments, interest earned in the amount of $4,458.39, and payment to vendors be approved as presented to the board and reviewed by the Financial Committee. We have a general fund balance of $20.1 million. We have a bond retirement fund balance of $3.3 million. We have a permanent improvement balance of $2.4 million. Building fund of $1.6 million. Food service of $900,000. OSSC Project Local of $100,000, OSSC Project State Share, $3.4 million, classroom facilities of $2.3 million, and other miscellaneous of $0.8, for a total in the bank of $34.9 million. And it does reconcile to the bank statement and to our ledgers. I'm going to skip 2C for the moment, and we'll come back to it. That's the presentation of approval of the five-year forecast. We'll do that last, if it pleases the board. Item 2D is approval of fiscal year 2013 permanent supplemental appropriation resolutions. We have a 007 special trust of $40,312. That's to begin construction of walking tracks for Wilson and Heritage. And then we have 010 OSFC, $500,000 appropriation. That is for us to receive the construction management payments to Resource by the OSFC, State of Ohio. We have 019 other grants of $1,650. That's a State Farm donation. Then we have adjustments from the federal government on Title I of a negative $23,001, and on 590 improving teacher quality, Title IIA of a minus $396 of ODE reallocation. Then we have an 004 construction fund of $72,000. That's for the sprinkler water line across State Route 13 for a total adjustment and appropriations of $590,565. Item 2E, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the service level agreement contract with LACA as shown in your appendix 2E. And item 2F, approval of change order form Roosevelt renovations. The Board of Education is asked to approve a change order for the Roosevelt ASC renovation as shown in appendix 2F. And where's Jameson? Can we get the slides and the presentation up? Okay, which one you got then? Do you have the actual forecast? Or if you can bring the slides up, I can talk to the forecast. Each one of the board members has a copy of the forecast in their packet. Some of the audience, if you need some, there's some blank copies over on the table also.
If you want to slide this way, you might be able to see a little bit.
Yeah, let's see. I could probably walk over there and talk to whoever it comes with that. What we were trying to do was, we were trying to get the forecast, which he's got up there on the smart board, and my PowerPoint presentation also. So I'll just have to talk through it, and hopefully I'll point to the right thing when I'm talking about it. So, okay. It's a little hard to see. It takes about $5.1 million per month to run Newark City Schools out of the general fund, which is what this forecast is concerned with. Most months, we have a general fund balance of approximately $15 million. I just read that we've got about a $20 million balance right now. That's because our first half property tax have been received by us. The Ohio Department of Education would like for us to, for a district to have about 3 months operating balance when you end the fiscal year at June 30th. And for the last 4 years, we have had at least 3 months balance in the general fund at the end of the fiscal year. First line I'm going to talk about, if I can find my little, is the top one right there. Boy, I am a nervous wreck. Look at that dot move up and down, people. You guys are scaring me to death. Line 1.010 is general property tax. This is probably the primary point that I want to make on this presentation for the board. This forecast assumes that the emergency property tax levy that was passed in May of 2009 will go on the ballot either in November or May as it pleases the board, and it assumes that property tax levy will be renewed and will continue on for the entire length of this 5-year forecast. If that levy does not get renewed in a timely fashion, either November, hopefully, then that line there will be reduced each year by about $5.7 million, okay? That is a significant figure, as you can see. The whole budget for the year is only around $55 million, so you take out $5.7 million each one of those 5 years, you can see how quickly we're going to go into the red and be in fiscal emergency. So it is urgent that the public understands that that levy needs to be renewed. It is a renewal, and I'll say it again, a renewal. We're living within the means that we asked you for, and at this time, we're not asking for any more unless the board directs me to do otherwise. Line 1.02, which is the second line on that forecast, that line right there, if you can follow the bouncing ball. That's tangible personal property. That's been reduced over the years from what it used to be. We get about $1,050,000 from that in fiscal year 13. This forecast assumes that that's going to continue on at approximately that level. Line 1.03 is the income tax, the third line there. And the income tax is projected each year to increase at 3%. The $7,972,367 on fiscal year 2013 has already been received, and then it's projected out that it will increase 3% each of the following five successive years. Line 1.035, which is fourth line down, big number right there. Okay, it's $26,678,652. That's the actual that we had in fiscal year 12, right there. And fiscal year 13, the state says that they're going to finally give us all of $26,359,297. That's slightly under what 2012 was. But then, according to the state House, Ohio State House Representative, they're going to give a 6% increase from that number in fiscal year 2014 and 2015, right here. You're going to see 6% increase to $27,940,855. 29,617 in 2015. Then the last 2 years, 2016 and 17, the Finance Committee and the board instructed me to increase it only 3%. Hopefully, that'll be a conservative estimate, and the state will continue to increase the 6% over year. Line 1.04 is restricted grants and aids, just underneath that. Projected without any stimulus funding or ed job funding. The reason I put that in there is you'll see that the number in 2011 and 12 was much larger than what we got in 13 and 14, because job ed last year was $1,209,083, came from the federal government. That's no longer there. It's gone away. Line 1.05, property tax allocation. We projected it flat from the 2013 level through 2017. Line 1.06, all other revenue, we projected a 3% increase per year. Line 2.0 and 2.07, we forecast does include receipts from the casino. That's something that's new from October. Okay, we're way down the road now.
You're not.
There we go.
Okay.
All right, 2.01. Very good. Thank you. Appreciate that. We're right there. This does forecast, includes the receipts from the casino. It's the first time that I put casino money in there. It's the first time I'm kind of ultra conservative. If I get one source tells me something new's coming down the pike, I make note of it, but I don't tell the board about it until I at least get another source that says it's going to happen. Then I start to believe it. Well, the numbers that I've heard at least 3 times on the casino that we're going to receive at least $50 per pupil. And they say that the way that it'll be split up is that you'll receive about $30 in the spring of the year, along about May, June coming up, and then you'll get another $20 per pupil sometime in the fall, September, and October. So if you allow $50 per pupil, we're going to get about $320,000 per student if that projection and forecast holds true. Personal services, we're going into the expenditure side now, which is the yellow side on the screen. Included in fiscal year 12 is payment for the EPC early retirement funding. That was the last big payment on that. Fiscal year 2013 includes the final payment for the EPC funding. Then the remaining years of 2014 through 2017 includes a 2% for step increase and 1% for general increase. That line is where our salaries are for our staff. That first line right there. And I'll repeat again, that's what's included in 2014 through 2017 is 2% for step increases and 1% for general wage increases. All payments of the EPC early retirement are now complete. Line 3.02, retirement insurance benefits. 2014 through 2017 maintains a 10% increase in medical insurance premium. This year is kind of an unusual year that I want to explain. We have been able to get from Medical Mutual, our insurance carrier, rates for the first 6 months of this fiscal year. But because of the, what everybody calls Obamacare, that's not the official name of it, it kicks in January 1, all the regulations coming out of Obamacare, and that is going to add to our cost. So they did not feel comfortable in quoting us a rate for the full year. So we gave our employees, or we're soon going to publish to our employees, rates for July 1 through December 31st. And then and December 1st, we will get a second half rate for all of our employees to include the rest of the cost of what Obamacare is costing us. Right now, we know it's going to be something over $150,000, probably closer for $200,000 for half a year. And if you would project that out over a full year, it's going to be something like in the $400,000 to $500,000 range that legislation is going to cost this school district. So that's something to keep in mind, that our costs are going up, something that we really don't control. If the federal government tells you you're going to do it, you're going to do it. 3.03, purchase services. We increased those costs year over year by 5%. That's the second line here. 3.04, supplies and materials, the third line. We increased it 5% year over year. All other financing uses are projected at or near the same level as 2012. Here's some of our issues. Uncertainty of the state budget allocations. This forecast is based on what the House said that they were going to do to us. If the Senate changes it before it actually comes out in our 2-year biennial budget, you could throw this thing away, because I don't know what that change is going to be. They haven't got to the point that they're talking about it enough. Uncertainty of federal programs. I told you where jobs bill has disappeared. Other things seem to be either whittled down or slowly getting removed each year as we go along. Renewal of local property tax before 2014 expiration. That's that emergency property tax levy that will probably, if the board desires, put it on the November ballot this fall. The last collection is made this year. Recovery of the local economy to at least support the projected 3% increase in income tax, plus other market swings impacting utilities, materials, supplies, and fuel costs. Here's revenue versus expenditures. This is a line that, in my opinion, all good treasurers have to point out to you, okay? What this says is that each year, whether we're overspending the receipts we get in or underspending the receipts we get in. And yes, you're reading this right. In fiscal year 13, we spent more than $2.4 million more than we brought in. This projection shows that 2014 we'll spend over $2 million more than we bring in. 2015 it'll be $2.4 million overspent. 2016, $3.7 million overspent, and 2017, $5.2 million. And first thing you think is, why don't you do something about it? Well, most of those costs are due to our medical insurance raising. I told you what we had in there as far as wages. It's 2% for steps and 1% for a general increase. So other than that, most of that cost comes through on the medical side and the 2% and the 1% on the wage side. About 80 to 82% of our school district's cost, it has to do directly with people related, either salaries or benefits. Here's the most important line. If this thing turns red in the first 3 years, then they put you in fiscal emergency or fiscal watch, whatever the Department of Education decides to do. Fortunately, our balance is strong enough in fiscal year 2012. We had a $15,026,601 balance at June 30th of last year. Fiscal year 2013, I think we'll have at least $12,625,025, and fiscal year 14 will be down to about $10,582,000. Fiscal year 2015 is $8,182,000, and fiscal year 2016 is $4,402,000. Then you see fiscal year 2017, if we don't change some things, get some more additional funding, or reduce cost in the proper places, we'll start going in the red about $872,541. We've already started working on that number. There's ways that we think that we can continue to save, and hopefully we'll continue to push that red number out beyond that 5th year as we go along this year and next year and the year after before we get there. that summary. That's all right. We're going to continue to review all costs versus benefits. We're going to continue thinking outside the box. Do not think, well, this is the way we've always done it. That's probably the one thing that if somebody says that to me, ignites me quicker than anything. I'll say, well, then we're going to find a different way to do that, okay? Continue the attrition of jobs and restructuring jobs as employees retire. Doug and his staff have done a good job of that, and work with unions on cost reduction. And we're currently in contract negotiations with the teachers union and soon to follow with the OPSI union to continue that effort also. Having said that, if there's no questions, I would hope that the board would move and approve everything I've talked about.
Do I have a-
I've got a question.
Sure.
There are things in this report that we can feel good about, but there are also some things that we can have concerns about. And I guess what I'm interested in, on the cash balances by year, on the slide that you had up there, how does our system, our school system, compare with other districts of like size as far as those kind of projections? Are we sound financially?
We're sound financially. The last time that I really researched that, schools of all size, we were one of only about 50 that was remaining black beyond the third year.
Okay.
Out of 600 school districts. We were only one of about 50 that was remaining black. The majority of time when I get in sessions with other treasurers, they're all trying to figure out how to get that second and third year black, if they can at all. Because, like I said, if you show red ink that you're going in a deficit in your balance by the third year, then the Department of Education steps in and they'll put you in fiscal caution, fiscal watch. What you have to do as a board at that time, we have to develop a plan to get that number back to the black. And as I mentioned, staff is about 82% of our cost, and you can cut everything else that you got in your budget and balance sheet, but when it comes down to eventually you're going to have to cut staff to bring red ink back into black, unless you do some outstanding cost measures of some sort. But we got all new buildings, so there's not a whole lot of utilities there, savings, because it's already been built into the new buildings. You got what you got on health insurance, then now the federal government's stepping in and costing us more money on health insurance. So then you got wages that you negotiate with your unions on, and you restructure, like I said, that Doug and his staff has been doing a good job on restructuring and rebuilding and trying to do more with less. And that's a tough job too. But for the last 4 or 5 years, I think that we've done a good job at that, because like I said, I feel we're confident that if we ask for renewal, we'll turn that fifth year back to black before we get there. As long as the state and the federal government doesn't all of a sudden reverse gears and start reducing the numbers that I showed up here in this forecast.
I think it's important to mention, Jeff, when you say other treasurers are trying to figure out how to get to a positive, that the process here is Jeff comes up with a list of assumptions, presents it to the finance committee, we kick it around between the three of us. I think we
Right.
actually gave the board an opportunity, the other board members.
Right.
And then it's sort of a case of, here's the assumptions we're working with, it's going to fall wherever it falls. So we're not playing with the numbers, making it turn out a certain way. We're coming up with the assumptions and then saying, put it together.
Solid and conservative assumptions is what we're using. I feel very confident, like I said, that we'll be able to turn that fifth year black. Hook, crook, one way or another, we'll get there somehow. I got confidence in this guy beside of me and the board to give us proper guidance. I got confidence in the staff sitting out there to figure out ways to get there. I'm just not going to tell you we're there yet, because we're not there yet. So we'll get there, though.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a comment, but I'll hold it for a moment. And first, I'll entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's recommendations.
So moved.
Second.
Curtis moved, Thomas second, and now we'll move on to discussion. I think it's important to point out that the Newark City Schools was where some of these districts are now. We went through that journey a few years back, and a lot of people and a lot of departments and a lot of opportunities for our students went through that round of cuts and made those sacrifices to help us get where we are. And I'm really excited to see that we've made the final payment for the employee severance plan. I remember when we were sitting here debating whether it was worth it. Do you think anyone would be interested in doing it? Will it really save us money? And then, we had like 54 staff members say, hey, I'm interested in that, and it saved us, $7 million over a few years. And so a lot of these districts are facing things that we've already come through.
Made hard decisions.
They're starting to walk into the tunnel, and we're already out the other side. And so it's been it's not that we haven't been there. We've made it through that for now, and hopefully for a long time.
To Doug's credit and the staff's credit, I can't think that they've even asked to add a person above where you all cut to when he and I came in 2009. It's always been somebody's left, then they figured out, okay, is that the right type of person to replace or not, or do we need to go to a different direction? And in most instances, we have not added people, we've replaced people or not replaced them to stay where we are.
Does anyone else have any other questions or discussion? If not, call the roll, please, Jeff.
Mr. Harden?
Yes.
Mr. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Bybee?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mrs. Nickam?
Yes, motion carries. This time I'd entertain a motion to move to executive session to discuss personnel issues.
So moved.
Second.
Kurt has moved, Dan is second. Any discussion? Call the roll, please, Jeff.
Mr. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Bybee?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Harden?
Yes.
Mrs. Nickam?
Yes. Now move into executive session. It's 7:18. 56. Doing superintendent's recommendations.
Okay. Under personnel, we'll have items 1 through 8
Or 1
on there,
through
but
2.
we will pull item 3 aside and go through those individually after we do the other 7. Okay. Under retirements and resignations, we're losing a few good young teachers that are relocating around the country, and we appreciate their work. We have some retirements. Tara King, Leanne Luger, Stephanie McClintock, Jeff Petrie. I'm going to do something I don't like to do. Excuse me. Put my glasses on. Jeff Petrie are retiring, along with Roger Walker, a classified staff. And we really appreciate their efforts in the district and their support of our students and those things. And tomorrow night we'll recognize them. We've been fortunate to be invited to their retirement dinner, so we'll be recognizing about 20-some staff members tomorrow night who are retiring. Under item 2, leaves of absence, we have Bobby Borders and Kendra Hare. We'll skip 3, supplemental contracts, Mike McNichol, Aaron Parsley. Under item 7, substitutes, and I want to keep mentioning this, Barb and her group do a wonderful job of recruiting good people to sub in our district. Also, approval is a classified, the aides, bus drivers, food service custodians, and secretarial. And also, under item 6, there's home instruction tutors on that. Item 8, extended service days for Michelle Lott here at the high school, up to 5 days if needed. So my recommendation is items 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Just through 8C, right?
Yeah, 8C, yeah.
Do you have a motion to approve superintendent's recommendation, A, personnel 1, 2, and 4 through 8C?
So moved.
Second.
Dan has moved, Thomas second. Any discussion or questions? Not, call the roll, please, Jeff.
Mr. Bybee?
Yes.
Mr. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Harden?
Yes.
Mrs. Nickam?
Yes, motion carries.
Okay, under item 3, we'll go down individually. Recommended appointments, assignments listed below be approved. Barbara Bell, auxiliary math at St. Francis.
Do I have a motion to approve superintendent's recommendation under number 3, Barbara Bell?
So moved.
Second.
Dan has moved, Curtis second. Any discussion? Call the roll, please, Jeff.
Mr. Bybee?
Yes.
Mr. Harden?
Yes.
Mr. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mrs. Nickam?
Yes, motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve the hiring of Martha Hartman?
So moved.
Second.
Kurt has moved, Thomas second. Any discussion? Call the roll, please, Jeff.
Mr. Harden?
Yes.
Mr. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Bybee?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mrs. Nickam?
No. Motion carries. Judy McNish. Do you have a motion to approve the hiring of Judy McNish?
So moved.
Second.
Was Kurt and then Tim?
Tim.
Kurt and then Tim, thank you. Any discussion? Call the roll, please, Jeff.
Mr. Harden?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Bybee?
Yes.
Mrs. Nickam?
Yes, motion carries. Do I have a motion for the rehiring of Amy Norman?
So moved.
Second.
Kurt has moved, Dan is second. Any discussion? Call the roll, please, Jeff.
Mr. Harden?
Yes.
Mr. Bybee?
Yes.
Mr. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mrs. Nickam?
Yes, motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve the hiring of Kim Serino?
So moved.
Second.
Kurt has moved, Thomas second. Any discussion? If not, call the roll, please, Jeff.
Mr. Harden?
Yes.
Mr. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Bybee?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mrs. Nickam?
No, motion carries. And now we have 8D.
Okay, I'm going to move to the podium. Share with the board a situation that has risen in our district in terms of student population, particularly at our elementary buildings. If you look at our enrollment, which I haven't looked at for a few years, the historical part of it in the last 12 to 15 years, it has slowly declined, pretty steadily actually. And about 2 years ago, it started to flatten out and tip its nose up just a little bit in the last few years. I've been kindergarten, first, second grade, where we're experiencing an increase in enrollment. This year at John Clem, we had 116 kindergartners. And so what I want to do is point out the problem that exists and a possible solution. And when I do this, I really want to mention, because some of you may or have been on the redistricting committee. In hindsight, a Monday morning quarterback that I'm playing, they did a fantastic job. There's a couple things that I'm going to assume probably happened in a little PowerPoint here, but for the most part, is anybody in here on that redistricting committee? Bev as a community?
That was.
Okay, Dave, actually, okay, good, thanks. And so, you did a good job of looking at the district, and so we're going to talk about John Clem Elementary. But before we do that, and I don't know how well you can see that, John Clem sits here at the bottom, and you can see these are next school year's projected numbers. And you'll see that we don't have kindergarten up here because we just cannot project kindergarten at this point. So we're going to look at John Clem's numbers and see 112 first graders, 89 second graders, 87, 83, and 98. Along that, I should note, and probably we should have put this up here, at Clem, we added a kindergarten teacher this year. So when Jeff goes through the forecast tonight and shares with you, our financial outlook, and he made it very clear that we look at saying, do we need to replace this position, or if not replace it, can we do without it? From that standpoint, the other part is that, and I will compliment Jeff on this. Jeff Anderson, he's the best treasurer I've been around, but Jeff Anderson does a very good job of communicating with our side of the hall. We have that hallway running down, and we say, that's Jeff's deal over there. This is Doug's deal over here. But I don't think I've been around anybody treasurer who communicates better from that standpoint. And so Jeff would tell you, we have a lot of conversations about staff in this district. Last year, we had to add a kindergarten teacher because of the 115 kindergartners we had at Clem. Basically, what that did to John Clem with the total numbers in that building, it moved our resource teachers out of their classroom and into an art room, the room where you first walk in to the right. It put our art teacher then on a cart to go around the building, and we had to add that new kindergarten class took that spot. We have absolutely no room in John Clem to add another classroom. I mean, the room does not exist. And so, that's our issue right now. So what we did was as you can see, all 7 of our elementaries are up there. But one of the things I want to point out, because as we go through this, Hillview will be a big part of this. As you look at Hillview has 3 teachers in every grade. So when you divide the numbers of staff to pupil ratio, and we do in our contract have a 1 to 28 ratio of staff to students. So you look at Hillview there, and you can see how we have space at Hillview. We have classrooms at Hillview. And so partly some of the things we talked about when schools were redistricted prior to construction, and again after Miller closed, there and there Hillview was expected to grow in population. It hasn't. And I think we can all agree that the housing market, the new housing market out in the Hillview area probably stalled 5-6 years ago, somewhere in that area. So partly as a result, more families are moving into the Clem area. Clem's class sizes have risen greatly, and we added a 5th kindergarten teacher this year to accommodate a large class of kindergartners. Rooms have been swapped around because of this, so we just shared that information. This leaves us with 2 possible solutions that must work in tandem. Don't allow transfers into Clem. This year, 54 students in grades K-4 have transferred into Clem, 51 of those from the Newark City Schools. And so there's an inter-district transfer and there's a intra-district transfer. And so most of those are from our district. And so we do have 54 students there. That's one. Change the boundary lines for Clem. We evaluated various scenarios for this action, taking into account the number of students it would impact, busing and more. The allowing of transfers is a superintendent level decision. A boundary change must be approved by the board. Next year's 5th graders would be allowed to stay at Clem. So what I'm proposing as a superintendent is rescinding transfers into Clem unless you would be a 5th grader next year, 5th grade. And so we would not want to have those students, we'd give them the opportunity to stay. So where are those 54 transfers from in our other buildings? So you can evaluate by grade up here and what building. So they're pretty much spread around, but you can see Hillview has the most at 20 students that transfer into Clem out of Hillview. Basically what we're showing here is, here's the boundary. This is Mount Vernon Road and comes along 16 here and stretches out over where Kurt lives, over across from the branch, and up by the park, North Park there, that area. And so kind of looks like a little bow tie. That's the current boundary. What we looked at was, Jason Key did a wonderful job for us, came down on his computer. So we started at the north end of John Clem, and we looked and just came south until we got the number of students to which, this is the Pizza Cottage right here, and this is English Avenue that runs across there. And so we're looking at, these students right here are already bused down to Clem. And so they would be bused to Hillview, so there wouldn't be a change for them that way. So we looked at John Clem boundary in a number of areas, eliminated many possible solutions. Moving students into Legend would cause the same issue there. We'd have an overcrowding issue at Legend. Moving students into McGuffey and Cherry Valley would cause students to have to cross 16. For the move to English, we started at the tip where 21st and Mount Vernon Avenue meet. We moved south until we arrived at a student number that we thought would solve the issue. It comes out to 33, or 30, not counting the 5th graders, for a combined total of 78 students leaving Clem next year.
Question.
Yes.
This is the combination of the 2 items, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the 78 is the 2 items, the transfers and the boundary change. Again, 5th grade students could stay at Clem if they would like to. We don't want to have to put student in a new elementary for just 1 year. Also, our biggest issues at Clem are in the 1st and 2nd grade. So remember, it's that pre-K3 area where we've experienced growth, not just at Clem, all through our district. We won't know concrete kindergarten numbers until the fall. And so after the enrollment changes, so if we were after the transfers and after a boundary change, if you look at the numbers now, that changes, it balances out our numbers. And it's great that Jeff did a 5-year forecast for us tonight, because the balancing out of our numbers helps us run our district more efficiently. And so if we continue on at Clem, two things would happen. Number one, we're going to have to add additional staff. Number two, we have no room to put the additional staff. And so it's going to cost us more money, and it's just going to continue to our overcrowding issue. So again, Hillview has 3 teachers in each grade. So if you look at first grade, 3, we're probably over, we're not probably over, we're over a limit there, projected numbers. But if you look at the remaining grades, our staff would be efficiently used with those new numbers. And you go back to Clem, who has 5 kindergarten teachers, and again, we don't know. Or on an ordinarily this year or an ordinary year, we would have 4 kindergarten classes there, but I can't tell you we're only going to have 4 next year instead of 5, because again, we won't know that number. So that's an unknown. But when we have 4 first grade teachers, and the numbers would be 88. And so that's a manageable classroom size. We have 3 second grade, we have 3 third grade, we have 4 fourth grade, and we have 4 fifth grade. And so you can see by those numbers how much more efficient our staff can be utilized by making these changes. So this could allow one Clem teacher to be moved to Hillview, possible. And if you're a Clem staff member out there, I didn't say we're going to move anybody. It said it could allow a staff member to be moved there. We free up space at Clem, which is our art room, move back in the art room. And Hillview has a space to accommodate another class. And so we're basically looking at one building who has run out of classrooms and another building who has a classroom. And so, again, the transfer is a superintendent decision. I will make that change. The other is a board action. I'm not asking the board tonight to take action on that, because next Wednesday night, we, on the 22nd of May, will be at John Clem Elementary at 6 o'clock, and we are going to invite you in by several people watch this. Each student will get a letter in the mail. It'll be on Twitter, it'll be on Facebook. Seth, what'd I lose out? I see Anna from the Advocate here. It'll probably be in the Advocate. And so we're trying to leave no stone unturned on our communication with this. So, is there any questions from the board?
I have a couple questions. When you talk about rescinding transfers, technically they're granted for 1 year anyway, right? I mean, I know our
Right.
parents kind of become accustomed to that. They expect to get it every year, but they're really only granted for a year.
Yes, 1 year.
And we had actually cut back transfers anyway this year to try to
Yes.
balance out and see where we're at. And the other question I have is, do we have to allow any of these transfers into Clem right now because of the building grade card status at any of our other elementaries?
Not understanding your question.
Do you know what I'm saying, Mindy? Yeah, school of choice.
It's no longer a requirement by the Fed.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about that. Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember the name for it. School of choice, thank you.
I just wanted to mention, I'm sure a few among Tim's millions of viewers out there are thinking, gee, they just built all these new schools, how can they have space crunch? And I think it's important to point out, while we're responsible for getting the kids within different schools to even out the numbers, when you're dealing with Ohio School Facilities money, they told us how many spots we're going to build overall. So,
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
you know, we did not say, this is how many elementary spots we're building for. The state did long-term enrollment projections and basically said, this is how many kids we will build schools for.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Tom. And I'll make the point, too, that As you asked Jeff to compare, or how do we compare financially, our forecast with others, and Jeff is 100,000% correct that 50 might be Jeff's a conservative guy, might be a conservative estimate on a school forecast right now on where the red and the black line is. Most schools in the state, particularly city schools, they're still experiencing a decline in enrollment. And so for us to stick at that 6,300 range the last two or 3 years and not continue to decline is kind of an odd situation. So when the OSFC, and I think I saw in here where the young group did the student study on where, the population, those type of things. It's a scientific method, basically. And they're finding a lot of declining in enrollment in schools where, right now for us, we're not having that declining enrollment. And it is at the elementary. And so, that nose keeps coming up just a little bit. And so our biggest issue, as I pointed out before, I think the redistricting committee did a fantastic job because we're into this project a little bit. And, other than, and how could you foresee the housing market stopping, and those things. I do want to point out something that's not on here, because we looked at the middle schools, and with Mr. Sereno sitting back here, Heritage is our largest middle school right now. And a lot of our Hillview students feed into Heritage. And so moving this over here, these students would not go to Heritage Middle School, because in some cases we have 50, 60, 70 kids more at Heritage than we do at Wilson and around. So this is an elementary transfer, just like right now, not all of our John Clem students go to Liberty. Some go to Wilson. And so this would be a similar situation if the board approved this transfer, that these students would not go to Heritage based on today's knowledge. So that may change a few years down the road, but again, Heritage is our largest middle school, so we don't want to put more students in there. Any other questions or comments? Again, that's Wednesday, May 22nd, John Clem Library at 6 o'clock. And we'll get the information out to people to come in and share their thoughts, and maybe somebody will come up with an idea that we haven't. But okay.
Thank you, Doug.
Glass is back on. Okay, under item B, students and curriculum, we have our normal, under item 2, special education contracts with Johnstown, Mount Vernon, and Northern Local. Also have the Fairfield Medical Center for audiology service. There's nothing under item 3, 4, or 5. Chair, under item 6, other, approval of the graduation list, and I cannot state enough, I am so proud of our senior class. And, if you think about a student who sat as a freshman and looked at a $40 million project going on right in the middle of their world for 183 days a year, these seniors have done a fantastic job. They've done well academically, and they've endured this project. So we're really proud of our graduating seniors. Under item B, approval of participation in the state and federally funded programs. There's a list of those below. Item C, approval of resolution authorizing membership to the Ohio Athletic Association, which is a yearly approval. Item D, approval of school fees for the 2013-14 school year. That has been ran through the SALT committee. And E, also through the SALT committee, is approval of the handbooks for next school year.
I have a motion to approve superintendent's recommendations D 1 through 6.
So moved.
Second.
Dan has moved, Tim is second. Any discussion?
Just mention there is no fee for the membership in the Ohio High School Athletic Association. If anybody wonders what that cost is, I believe it's $0.
Right.
What's the total number on the graduation list?
Where are we at? Kim, do you know that off the top of your head?
No, I don't.
I was gonna say it's
We just discussed that today a little bit.
low threes, I think, isn't it?
I think so.
About the same as last year.
Yeah, similar.
Hey. Yeah, I know. It's a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't count them when I was
Enough to
signing.
make us want to stamp when we do those diplomas, yeah. Yep.
Call the roll, please, Jeff.
Mr. Bybee?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Harden?
Yes.
Mrs. Nickam?
Yes, motion carries.
And my favorite part of the agenda, gifts, because as always, we always have very generous individuals and businesses out there willing to help our programs out. So monetary donation from State Farm of $1,650 to Sue Grinwald in a high school. I think they use that for prom. Monetary, Licking County Center for the Visually Impaired, Ellie Callis with visual aids. And monetary, the Newark Rotary, $1,000 for the special needs picnic, which I know takes place tomorrow. Linda Price is going to go to Rotary tomorrow and share all the good things, and we really appreciate that. That park is unbelievable, and I know our kids really appreciate that. So, item C.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve superintendent's recommendation C, gifts?
So moved.
Tom has moved to the second.
Second.
Dan is second. Any discussion? Call the roll, please, Jeff.
Mr. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Bybee?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Harden?
Yes.
Mrs. Nickam?
Yes, motion carries.
Okay, under item D, I'm going to say something that we haven't said around here in a long time, especially with a building project. We have no business, no contracts, no acceptance of bids, and no awarding of bids tonight. Dave, when's the last time that happened? Yeah, been a little while, so.
12 years. Okay, moving on to board stuff. Intent to adopt board policies. It is recommended that the Board of Education announce its intent to adopt the following policies as shown in the appendix, an announcement to be made that these policies will be available to the board, staff, and public for inspection in the Office of the Superintendent of Schools from May 14th, 2013 to June 10th, 2013. File 2431, Interscholastic Athletics. And now adoption of board policies. It is recommended that the Board of Education adopt Board of Education policies listed below as shown in the appendix and as announced at the April 8th, 2013 regular meeting of the Board of Education. File 2623.02, third grade reading guarantee. File 3220, staff evaluation. File 8900, anti-fraud. Do I have a motion to adopt these policies?
So moved.
Kurt has moved. Do I have a second? Second. Tom is second. Any discussion? Call the roll, please, Jeff.
Mr. Harden?
Yes.
Mr. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Bybee?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mrs. Nickam?
Yes, motion carries. And now, discussion on student body representative. Did you want to?
I'll start and let Gim and Maura jump in as they please. This is something I guess maybe I've talked about for quite a while, and the three of us have met and discussed it. And what we'd like to do is something very similar to what Licking Valley has done for a number of years, where this actually becomes part of the curriculum. It's used as a model election by their political science class. And they would actually set up a board of elections, they'd set up precincts, they'd set up the whole election process to teach the students how an election actually works. And then they would elect a student very early in their junior year to serve for 2 years until graduation. So once you went through that startup period, you'd always have a second-year student and a first-year student as a board representative. And what we discussed that we'd like to see is the board member would sit with us here. They would participate in the discussion. They would vote, although their vote would not be recorded. Obviously, they're not per se a member of the Board of Education. And Gemma, would you like to talk about your conversation that you had with Dave Heil out at Licking Valley about how that has worked for them. I think there's a lot of advantages there that he expressed that.
And he says it's very beneficial for the student body because they can voice concerns or bring different things to the board, and it brings a student perspective to the board. So that was his main point. Plus, it's an educational tool, for the students as well. They learn the election process, that type of thing. So he was very positive about it.
One thing, I heard the word executive session here. They could not, unless we invited them, could not attend an executive session. There are certain executive sessions, it would fit for them to be there, but there would definitely be staffing issues, that sort of thing, that it would not be appropriate.
The only thing I would say is that if this is going to be a bylaw under file 0140, it needs to go to the executive committee for review.
I think our main interest in it was having it ready to roll for the kids when school starts in August. So.
Right, it would just like, certain things go to SALT committee and certain things go to personnel and then come to the board. This would fall under the executive committee, so it needs to go to that committee, which we could set up a meeting.
At this point, we wanted to bring it to the full board to see if the board wanted to send it on to where it goes and start the process.
Then again, your implementation is in August of this coming school year?
It would start with the school
Right.
year
Mhm.
if we ran it through the process in time to do so.
Mhm.
Actually, we had talked about maybe a board member or two, not sure how many it would take, maybe spending a day yet in these last few weeks of the school year, talking to this year's sophomores, letting them know what the board's all about, because this is a major commitment these kids would make before they run. You look at the time commitment we have involved, and the students would have very similar. And we thought it would be appropriate for a couple of us to spend a day talking to them, letting them know what school board's all about and what they'd be looking at, and help them understand before they made a decision.
I guess we'll have to see how soon executive committee can meet. I don't know if we can get that off the ground by the end of the school year.
We really wouldn't have to have it approved yet to have that discussion.
That's what I'm asking Maura now, if she maybe set that up for a board member to see if there's interest with kids while it goes to executive.
Right, but shouldn't we decide if we're going to do it before we present that
I agree.
to the student body? I mean, that could be premature. We could decide that that's something we don't want to do.
We can do that. It's just going to cram it a whole lot closer, tighter on them come the beginning of school year.
Right. But I think that we need to follow the appropriate procedures for policies that fall under the executive committee, just like we do for finance, personnel, and SALT. There's a process. So I think we need to follow that. So, but we can, Dan and Doug and I can put our calendars together tonight and see when we can meet.
Sure.
Hopefully sooner than later.
I apologize for this, Tom, because we'll be talking a little bit about this tomorrow, I'm sure. Would they have an election that would coincide with a November election here at the school, or is that what?
They'd probably do it right at the beginning of the school year. They discuss elections, I believe, at that time anyway.
They actually do mock elections to go through the whole process with fruit. I don't know why fruit, but that's what they choose. And we felt this would be obviously a more authentic experience for them with some real benefits outside the fruit world.
Are you saying there's no fruits that win elections?
Like ninja fruit?
Worked on that for hours.
Yeah.
Like ninja fruit?
That's why we met twice.
Well,
I'm a little concerned, are there going to be super PACs and Acorn and stuff like that? Side groups trying to influence the
It
election?
could happen.
I joke
Part of
about
how it
they
works.
really-
That's how it works.
They really do a good job with the whole process.
can
They
see
set
that.
and stuff, but it's fruit. So, yeah.
I think Karl Rove is for it. That helps.
We're not holding it in Chicago, though.
Okay, so Dan, Doug and I will take up the issue in executive committee. So just forward the proposal that you have to us and we'll take a look at it. And then we'll probably at some point even call you in to talk to us about it. All right. Now we'll do a board discussion. We can start down with Tim.
Thank you. One of my favorite phrases, there's just so much more that's going good than going bad. Way more good than bad in Newark City Schools, and it's an exciting time. And looking forward to seeing how the kids finish out the year and a great graduation day. Will be hopefully rain-free. Would be nice. That's all.
Probably take both of our times if you're.
Yeah, I'll pass.
Being the last meeting before the end of the school year, I'd like to thank Mr. Philhauer and the students for being here and the role you guys play. You know, probably you think of it as another class project, but it is amazing how many people do watch these meetings for whatever reason. Maybe they can't afford sleeping pills, or I don't know. But anyway, you guys play an important role, and thank you. Wanted to mention spring activities. Fine Arts have a lot of shows going on, I think basically nightly right now. The spring, academic awards, whatever it's called, is Wednesday night. I know what it is, I don't know what it's called.
It's an academic recognition.
Okay. Jeff, thank you for the 5-year forecast and all your efforts on it. And I think Tim and I were the two board members that were here in '09 when we passed the levy. And you've heard Doug say it before. We looked at it as a stopgap. We were bleeding badly, and we thought that was going to buy us 3-4 years. And right now, we're looking good through, well, not good, but we're looking like we get through 2017. And I think a lot of people deserve a lot of praise for the way the finances have been handled. And there's just been so many things go on in the way of changes in insurance, the retirements, programs shifted. I just can't think of all of them, but just this district has been such good stewards of the money that, you know, I really appreciate the efforts of our leadership in doing that. And I wanted to mention one of our students. I don't know how many of you got this. It's a publication of the Licking County Board of Developmental Disabilities, Possibilities. I believe it came in the Advocate a couple weeks ago. And the fellow here on the front cover is a Newark High School student, Tanner Krupp. And Tanner, it discusses his job at a horse farm. Tanner was a manager for the basketball team, and actually he's going to be featured on some billboards that I always have trouble with their name, Board of Developmental Disabilities will be doing. And I think that's pretty cool that we've got a student who will be, his smiling face will be staring down on us as we drive down the freeway. And I think Tanner is an excellent example of when you have the school, the student, the parents, the other organizations out there that provide services. When everybody's on the same page working together, you get the Tanner stories. And I just wanted to mention that, you know, just look for Tanner on the billboards.
Dan?
I want to continue to thank those in the community for the monetary gifts that we get. It seems like every month we have several companies that think enough of our school district to give us money, and it's very much appreciated. So thank you to all the businesses that contributed this last month. I also wanted to remind everybody that the graduation ceremony itself this year has been moved to Saturday instead of Sunday. So if you're like me, you'd have shown up on Sunday thinking, where in the heck is everybody? So it is on Saturday. I also I mentioned this earlier in the meeting about the swearing-in ceremony for Judge Craig Baldwin. I mentioned how proud we were of the facilities, but I also want to take this point to let everyone know how proud I was of our students and how proud I was of the staff and everything associated with that ceremony. You know, if you stop and think, you know, what made up that ceremony was, first of all, Kurt, in his very humble way, would never take credit for this, but I want to tell him what an excellent job he did to be the MC for that ceremony. That was outstanding, Kurt, and we really did appreciate that. But, you know, all the students were there. Doug, I'm not sure how many students we had in attendance.
About 650.
650 students. And, you know, to the student, everybody was standing tall and looking good. My gosh, I was standing out there in that parking lot when I first drove in, and the ROTC kids were out there, you know, standing at attention, directing everybody. And it just was a special occasion. And maybe the weather even was great that day, too, as I recall. It was a sunny day, and everything seemed to be going right. But Craig was a graduate of Newark High School, and what greater praise can you bring to a school district than to see one of your own, you know, reach levels of that and accomplish so much, you know, in addition to being a good friend of Kurt's and a graduation high school buddy, right? Absolutely. Yeah. So, again, it was a great event that day, and Jim, I know that you were really instrumental in pulling that off, and you did a fantastic job, so thank you. And that's all I have.
Jeff?
I was very proud at Judge Baldwin's swearing in. I had the opportunity to go backstage before it started with Doug and to talk to some of the justices that were a part of that ceremony, and at least 3 of them told me that at their swearing-in ceremony for the same court, that they only had 20 people or 50 people there. And they were just totally amazed by what was going on, the outpouring and the support that Judge Baldwin was getting out of the community and school. I was very proud of our strings band. That's not the proper name. I'm a hillbilly, okay? But I know that, say it? The orchestra, strings orchestra, yeah, that's correct, orchestra. But they were fantastic, and I'm always amazed when they play because I think it lends a touch of elegance to any ceremony and to any program, and I'm very proud to be a part of a school district that has that group. And I'm just very happy to be here, and I'm thankful to be a Wildcat.
I expected Jeff to kind of break out a little deliverance stuff going down there, but I would like to share my joy in that day too, and we're always talking about being a good teammate and being good leaders, and so many people stepped up and rose to the occasion on that day, and particularly our students. And as Dan mentioned, we have about 170 some ROTC students who were very active. They were in every little nook and cranny of this place, at attention, and they just did a fantastic job. Our students, not only in the program, but as you walk back through the cafeteria, we had a few people say, "You sure you want to bring them back through the cafeteria?" Well, certainly do. It's a great facility, and we're proud of our kids. And so we told Linda, no peas that day, no carrots, nothing anybody can throw. But our students did a fantastic job. But we wrote a little column in the paper because, part of that whole day when Judge Baldwin approached us with that was certainly, we're very proud of our graduates, but it was a great teachable moment. The Supreme Court Justice who spoke, Kennedy, I believe her name was Kennedy.
Yeah.
We could not have written a better script to deliver to our students, and we really appreciate her time and her effort that way, because one of the things we're trying to teach our kids is you're all drinking the same water and breathing the same air in Newark, Ohio, and there's a lot of opportunities. Moore and I got in a discussion not long ago about our programs as we step back and take a look at, hey, where are we at here at the high school, and what we're putting our stamp on, and some things like that, and a lot of programs up here at the high school. And if you want to graduate, there's a path for you at the high school, and it's your decision. And so we talk about our graduation rate, but I'm very comfortable we've put a lot of branches on the tree up here for a lot of different learning styles. I'm sitting here looking at Seth and Maura, and we've had discussion about flex learning and flex credit, and that we have a very neat class coming to the board for approval that you can get a math and a history and a language art and a technology credit through statistics and by doing stats on an iPad. And Seth has done a lot of research on that, and Maura has worked a lot with high school teachers who are ready to do that. So I don't know of too many schools that you can get 4 or 5 credits in a non-traditional way. That's really neat. And so a lot of those things I'm very, very proud of what we're doing. But again, we're all drinking the same water, breathing the same air. There is a path for every child in Newark and a lot of support out there. But you have to take a step forward, and you too may one day be sworn in as a judge or something along those lines. And so, wonderful day. Wrote a column in the paper about graduates, and so you know what that probably led to was a lot of calls and emails saying, hey, what about, I didn't really realize we had so many athletes, and it wasn't an athletic column to begin with, but of people who went on to do good things. But I like hearing that. And we talked about even having a little section on our board meeting that just talks about graduates. And tonight, I'm going to talk about one of our own, Stephanie Devilblaw, who is Maura brought it into me today. It's a great article, an Ohio Association for Gifted Children. Stephanie was a gifted student here at Newark and a graduate here. And she had and she's our gifted coordinator, by the way, with a heck of a background. Particularly when, from Newark High School to University of Virginia to Duke University, those type of things. A young mother who wrote a wonderful article and got published in a magazine. So we're proud, and we're full of graduates like that. So, but that's one of our own working with our students. So, as always, it's a great time to be a cat. Beth?
All right, as everyone's mentioned, there's so many activities going on in the month of May, so get out there, find something to do with a Wildcat. And I also met a successful Newark grad in the last week. One of our graduates is an on-air personality with the Blitz radio station in Columbus, Tessa Gordon, so I met her this week, and that was pretty cool. So there's so many of our graduates are doing great things, and also wanted to mention that along with the 300 and some graduates we have from Newark High School. Gosh, I'm not sure the number, but many of our Newark students are also earning their certificates of completion from CTEC this month. So there's a lot of great things happening for Newark students. So get out there and spend time with the Wildcat and do something fun this May, go to an event. And now I will entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss personnel and prepare for negotiations.
So moved.
Dan has moved. Second. Second from Tom. Roll call, please.
Mr. Blind?
Yes.
Mr. Bybee?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Harden?
Yes.
Mrs. Nickum?
Yes, we're moving to executive session at 8:42. We do not intend any action after the executive session.